Welcome to part 3 of the Spring Boot and Angular full stack project series, where we are going to build a YouTube clone application. In part 2 of this tutorial series, we built the backend API of the application where we developed the logic to upload the videos to AWS S3. In this video, we are going to test that implementation and also implement the front-end parts of the things. So we are going to implement a drag and drop interface in the Angular application. So without any further delay, let's start the video. Alright, so a quick recap of what we have developed in the last video. We have created a video controller class which is exposing a post endpoint which is taking a multipart file as a request parameter, and we are passing this parameter into the upload video method of the video service class, which is in turn passing this file to the S3 service where we are reading the input stream from the file and passing it to the put object of the AWS S3 client, which will upload a file to the AWS S3. And we are also setting the object access control to public read so that the video is accessible from our Angular application. And lastly, we are also retrieving the URL of the video and we are passing it as we are returning it from this method. And back inside the upload video, we are creating a video object, setting the video URL and saving the video object to the MongoDB database. Alright, so now it's time to test whether how this implementation is working. So I'm just going to start the YouTube clone application. So you can do that by going into the YouTube clone application class and clicking on the debug YouTube application button. So now the application should start in the debug mode. So you can see that the application is started at port 8080, and to test it, I'm going to use a Postman client. So I've already configured the required details here. So I just added the URL as localhost 8080/API/videos, and I've selected the HTTP method as post. And inside the body, I'm going to select the option form data, and we are going to provide the request parameter, the name of the request parameter as file. So just make sure that you have the key name as file and select the type as file. So I think by default the text option will be selected, so just make sure you select the option file. And in here in the value you can go to this option and select some random video. So I'm just going to select a video file .mp4 file. So it's called as input.mp4, and now you can click on send, and you can see that we are receiving a 500 error. So let's see what is the problem here. So I've opened the IntelliJ IDEA and I'm just going to scroll down, and the error says size limit exceeded exception. The request was rejected because its size exceeds the configured maximum. So what this error says is like our video file has exceeded the default maximum limit of a file. So I think it's around 10 MB, the default file limit, and our video file is around 14 MB. So for that, what we can do is you can open the application.properties file, and here I'm going to add a couple of properties. So the first one is Spring Servlet Multipart max file size, and I'm going to add it as 100 MB. And the second one is Spring Servlet Multipart max request size 100 MB. So by adding these two properties, we are configuring the max file size as 100 MB and the request size as 100 MB. So after adding these two properties, I'm just going to restart the server. Okay, the server is restarted. Now let's go back to the Postman client and try this request again. So you can see that it's taking some time. That's good, but we are still getting this 500 error. So let's go back and see what's the problem now. Okay, so we are getting a different error now. So it says Amazon S3 exception access denied. So this is because we did not allow the public access for the bucket we have just created in the last video. So let's go ahead and change the bucket settings. So I logged into my Amazon account and I have chosen the service Amazon S3. And here you can see the bucket we have created in the last tutorial. So it's the YouTube demo PT key. This is the bucket I've created. And you can see in the access column, the text bucket and objects not public. So this is the reason why we are getting the access denied exception, because the bucket is not set as public and we are not able to access this bucket from our Spring Boot application. So what we are going to do is I'm going to first click on the YouTube demo PT key bucket, and I'm going to click on permissions. So here you can see that we are blocking the public access of the bucket. So what we can do is we can click on edit, and I'm going to uncheck this and click on save changes. So it's asking us to confirm the changes, so I'm just going to type confirm here, and okay, and now we are allowing the public access to this bucket. So let's go back to the Postman client and try the request again. I'm going to click on the button send. Okay, now you can see that we have received the response as 201 created. So that's good. That means the request is processed successfully, and we also don't see any error messages. That's also good. Now let's open the Amazon S3 and let's see whether video is uploaded or not. So I'm just going to refresh here. Alright, now you can see that the object we have created is uploaded to S3, but there is a small error here. So just before the extension there is no dot here, so it should be some random UUID .mp4. Let's quickly fix this error. So I'm just going to open the video service and going into the S3 service upload file method, and while creating the key, I'm just going to add a dot before the file extension. So right, so now it should be a random UUID .mp4. To reload this, I'm just going to make use of the IntelliJ features. I'm just going to right click on the editor and click on compile and reload file. As this is just a small change, IntelliJ should be able to reload the class without any problems. Notice that if you have added any annotations or changed any classes, you need to restart the server. This reload will not work. And as an alternative, you can use the Spring DevTools extension, which will reload the server based on some changes. Alright, so now let's try this again. I'm just going to open the Postman client again, and I'm going to click on send. Okay, we have got the 201 response again. Now let's open Amazon S3 again and refresh. So now you can see that the file is created successfully with a valid key, and you can also see that it's recognized as an MP4 file. Alright, so we have completed the implementation of the Backend API to upload the videos to Amazon S3. So now we are going to start working on the front-end side of things. So we are going to start off by creating the component to upload the videos. So for that, I'm going to open the terminal and make sure that you are inside the front-end module. So for that, I'm going to cd into front-end and YouTube clone UI. And in here, I'm going to first generate the component to upload the videos. So for that, I'm going to type in the command ng, g, which means generate, and c, which is component. So I'm just going to type the command ng generate component upload video. So what it will do is it will mainly create files. The first one is upload video component.html and upload video component.spec.ts and upload video component.ts. So the spec.ts is like a test file for the component TypeScript file, and the last one is the upload video component.css file where we can store our CSS for this particular component. So the next thing we are going to do is add a library called as ngx file drop to our Angular project. For that, I'm going to open Google and I'm just going to search for ngx file drop, and I'm just going to click on the first link, which is coming from the npmjs.com, and in here you can see that this is an Angular module which is used to create the drag and drop interface. We can just install this library by just copying this command here. So I'm just going to copy this command and open IntelliJ and paste it here. So it will install this ngx file drop library to our project, and it will also save this dependency to our package.json file. So I'm just going to type enter, and you can see that the library is installed successfully, but we have found 11 vulnerabilities in our project. Here we have the message to fix them by running this npm audit fix command. So let's run this command, npm audit fix. You can see that it has fixed 10 out of 11 vulnerabilities, and the one vulnerability we have to review it manually, so we'll do that soon. But let's continue. So I'm going to open the documentation again, and here it defines the usage, how we have to use this library inside our Angular project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first copy these three modules. So we need a forms module to work with the reactive forms in our application. And we also need HTTP client module to be able to call the backend from our Angular application, and the ngx file drop module, which will enable all the drag and drop functionality in our Angular project. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy these three lines, and here I'm going to go into the source app folder, and I'm going to open app-module.ts. And in here I'm just going to paste these three lines under the browser animations module. So I'm just going to paste these three lines here, and of course we have to import these modules into our app-module.ts file. So I'm just going to press Alt Enter and import these modules to our app-module.ts file. So if you're not using IntelliJ or maybe you're using VS Code, just make sure to type in this import commands manually into the app-module.ts file. So let's see what is the next step. So I'm just going to scroll down here inside the documentation, and this is to enable the file drag functionality. So for that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the whole app component file here and paste it inside the upload video.component.ts file. Okay, so it will complain that the class name is different, so let's rename this upload video component, and also the template URL. So I'm going to select as upload video component.html, and here I'm going to, in the styles URL, I'm going to select upload video component.css, and I'm going to rename the selector as app upload video. All right, and here if you scroll down, it's complaining that it is not has any type. So I'm just going to add type of any here for the file over method, and the same thing I'm going to do for the file leave method. So for the event, I'm just going to add the type as any. Okay, now I'm going to open the documentation again, and here now I'm going to copy the HTML part and paste it inside the upload video component.html file. So here we basically have the ngx file drop directive, which is basically enabling the file drag and drop functionality in our application. And here we also have a table which is actually showing the information of the files which are uploaded to the application. So let's see this in action by starting the server. So I'm just going to again open the terminal and type in the command npm start. So this is going to start the application at the port 4200. So right now it's generating the application bundle. So I will be back once the application is up and running. All right, so the server is up and running. So I'm going to open the browser. I'm just going to type in localhost 4200. And you can see that we are greeted with the home page of the Angular application, but we want to go to the upload video component, and we did not yet create any route to go to the upload video component. So the next thing we are going to do is to create the route. For that, I'm going to open the app routing module.ts file, and we can define the route inside the the routes array const. So for that, I'm just going to create object, and I'm going to add a path. So this path is going to be upload video. So whenever the user has typed in upload video as one of the URL path, we're going to route this to the component upload video component, right? So if I type localhost 4200 upload video, then the page will be redirected to the upload video component, and we should be able to see the drag and drop file interface we just added. And the other thing we have to do is to open app.component.html file, and here I'm just going to delete the whole default HTML. So I'm just going to leave out the router out, delete everything else. So alright, now if I open the localhost 4200, you will not see anything because we don't have any HTML file configured in the default homepage. So what I'm going to do is type in upload video, And now you can see that the drag and drop interface here. So you see the default text, which is configured as part of the HTML file we saw before. And if I click on browse files, you can see that it has opened the file window, and now I'm going to select the video file here. And now you can see that it has automatically understood the file name, and it is showing it just below the drag and drop area. Now we are also going to test the drag and drop interface. So let me quickly drop a video file under the drag and drop interface. So now you can see that it will also recognize the MP4 file, and it's showing the name, the input.mp4. And the next thing we are going to do is to change this default text, which is coming from the ngx file drop HTML file. So let me open IntelliJ and the upload video component.html file. And here under the ng template, we have the default text, this optional custom content. So I'm just going to remove this and replace it with drag and drop videos in this section, or browse files. So if I just save it and open the browser, you can see that this text is reflected immediately. So either the user can drag and drop the videos, or we provide the option to browse files and select the video. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is to add a button called as upload just below the name of the file. So for that, what we are going to do is back to IntelliJ and under the upload video component.ts. So as soon as the file is dropped, we need to understand that actually the file is dropped, and we have to show the upload button. For that, we can add a boolean variable just under this dropped file section. So if it is a file, like if it is a file system, if it is a file of type file system file entry, then we are going to process the file. Or if it is a directory, which is of the type file system directory entry, then we are going to process it as a directory. And as we are only interested in files, so we are going to identify whether the file is uploaded or not with the help of a boolean variable. So what I'm going to do is, right below the console log statement, I'm going to define a boolean variable called file uploaded equals true, right? So of course IntelliJ is complaining that this variable is not yet present. So I'm going to define this variable on the class level. So file uploaded. So this is going to be a boolean variable and default value of false. So I'm going to replace this as this dot file uploaded equals true, right? So the file uploaded variable is false by default, and whenever a file is dropped into the section, then the file uploaded boolean variable will be assigned the value true. So what I'm going to do now is to go back to the upload video component.html file, and just under the div section, the upload table div class, I'm going to add a button. So this button is going to be of type mat button. So remember that we are using Angular material as our styling library. So it provides different kinds of components, UI components, which we're going to have a look at in depth in this tutorial. So as of now, we are just using the mat button module. So I'm just going to add it, and IntelliJ is already suggesting me to import the mat button module into the Angular into the app module.ts file. So I'm just going to select this option. If you're not using IntelliJ, if you're using VS Code, you have to add this mat button module under the import section of the app module.ts file, and make sure also to import this mat button module from the Angular material button package. Right, so I'm going to go back to the HTML file, and here I'm just going to add an ng if statement. So we have to display the upload button whenever this file uploaded variable is true. So I'm just going to add file uploaded here, and just going to name this button as upload, or I'll name it as upload video. Right, I'm just going to save it, and if I open the browser again, and you can see the page is refreshed. So I just have to upload the video again. So I'm going to drop the video one more time, and just below the name you can see the upload video button now. So what we're going to do next is to, whenever we click on the upload button, we have to make the API call to our Spring Boot backend, and then the Spring Boot backend will upload this video to AWS S3. So let's go ahead and implement that functionality next. Right, so now whenever I click on the upload video button, I have to make an API call to our Spring Boot backend API. So for that, I'm going to open the upload video component.html, and in the button tag, I'm just going to add a click directive. So whenever this button is clicked, I have to call the upload video method, which should be defined inside the upload video component. Of course, it is not defined yet, so I'm going to create this method inside the component. And now we have to define the logic here to upload the video to backend. So for that, what we are going to do is we need a video service. So we need a service class which will make the HTTP calls to the backend. So for that, I'm going to go again to the terminal and go to cd into frontend and YouTube clone UI. And now I'm going to create a service class called video. So for that, I'm going to type in nggs, so which is ng generate service video. So what this will do is we'll create two files, videoservice.ts and videoservice.spec.ts files. So let's open the videoservice.ts here. And in here, we have to first auto inject the HTTP client, which we will use to make HTTP calls to our Spring Boot backend. So I'm going to type in HTTP client, and this is HTTP client. I'm going to select the HTTP client class coming from the Angular common package, right? And I'm going to define also the method called as upload video here inside the video service. So back to the upload video component.ts file. So what we are going to do is we should pass in the file which we have just uploaded, which the user has just uploaded. For that, what I'm going to do is, so the file is actually the file is actually defined here, right? So as soon as we identify that the file entry is actually a file, we are assigning it to a const variable called file entry. So we need this file entry inside this upload video method. So what we can do is we can also make it a class level variable. So I'm going to define a variable called as file entry, and this is going to be a file system entry, and I'm going to add a default value as undefined. Okay, so I'm going to replace this const as this dot file entry, and I'm also going to replace this usage with this dot file entry. I hope this is the only places. Yeah, these are the two places. Now I'm going to file entry inside the upload video button, so inside the upload video method. So we are going to process this file only if it is undefined. So I'm going to add this if condition dot this dot if condition, where if this dot file entry is not equal to undefined, right? And then only we will call the video service then only we'll call the upload video method of the video service. For that, we need to first inject the video service into our component. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and do that. We need to first define a constructor here for the upload video component. I'm going to, inside the constructor parameters, I'm going to first inject the video service. So private video service, and I'm going to call the video service class. So let's use this video service variable under the upload video method. So I'm going to call this dot video service dot upload video, and I'm going to pass in the file entry as the input argument for the as input argument for the upload video method. So I'm going to refactor it so that the upload video also has the file entry as the input parameter. So file entry, file system, file entry, right? So we have the file entry here already. Now what we are going to do is to make a HTTP post call. HTTP post call. I think it's not visible because the IntelliJ is adding some warning text or something like that. So let's add some return here so that IntelliJ is okay. So now it's happy. It's not blurring out the method body here. So I'm just going to, what we are going to do now here is we are going to make a HTTP post call to upload the video, and yeah, that's what we are going to do. So for that we need the HTTP client. So I'm going to use this .http client .post, and I'm going to call the URL HTTP localhost 8080/API/videos. If I'm not wrong, this is the correct request mapping. So let's confirm this. I'm going to open the backend project, source main Java controller, video controller, and you can see it's /API/videos, and it's a post mapping. So we got it correct. So back to the video service.ts file, and as a request body we have to pass in the file entry as the request parameter. So we can do that by copying this from the component.upload video component.ts. So inside the example code we have already defined, we already have this how to do this. So first we have to upload the file by defining the form data. So I'm going to copy these two lines here, so and paste it inside the upload video method. Okay, so what we are doing is we are creating a new form data object, and we are appending the whatever metadata we need to send, we are appending it to the form data. But the name of the request parameter should be file, because if I open the video controller class again, here you can see the request parameter is named as file. So we need to provide the same name, or else the request will not work, or else the post call will not work. So I'm going to name it as file, and here the file entry, the file should be a file entry, as this is the file system entry we are receiving, right? And this is going to be file entry dot name. Now we can see that we have got an compilation error, because the form data dot append method is expecting a file object, but whereas we have provided the file entry object which of the type file system file entry. So to fix that we need to pass in a file object. For that I'm going to we need to pass in a file as an input argument from the upload video component. So so now I'm going to open the upload video.component.ts file, and in here we have this file entry. So I'm going to first retrieve the file from inside this file entry by typing this.fileentry.file. So this provides a callback. So I'm going to provide this callback as file, and I'm going to move this upload video method call inside the callback, right? So now I'm going to, instead of passing the file entry, I'm going to pass just file to the upload video method. And of course we need to change the method signature. I'm going to also do that. So now if you go inside the upload video method, you can see that it is taking a file as the entry now, and it's not throwing any compilation error. So we are also returning the object, and we are also returning the observable after making the post call to the backend API. So let's go back to the upload video component, and here we are also subscribing to the observable, and whenever we receive successful data, we are printing the message video uploaded successfully to the console. So now let's go ahead and test how this is working. So I'm going to open the browser, and I'm going to also open the DevTools to make sure that I monitor the network calls, right? So I'm going to drag and drop the MP4 file again, that input.mp4 file. And now I'm going to click on the button upload video, and you can see that we are making a post call to our backend. So that's good, but what's not good is we got a CORDS error back. So let's see what is this CORDS error and how to fix this. So you can see that we have received the error access to XML HTTP request at localhost 8080 API videos from origin localhost 4200 has been blocked by CORDS policy. No access control allow origin header is present on the requested resource. So to understand this error, we have to understand what we mean by origin, right? An origin is a combination of a host name, a port, and a HTTP scheme, right? So if you observe this error message, we are trying to call the backend which is running at localhost 8080 with HTTP scheme from our frontend which is running from on localhost 4200 which is using HTTP scheme. So whenever our backend is receiving request which is of different origin, then the backend will panic and it will not accept the request from a different origin. So what we have to do is we have to configure our backend to accept also the request from different origins. So we can do that by configuring a class inside our backend. So I'm going to first create a package called as config, and I'm going to create a class called as web MVC config, right? I'm going to add the component configuration annotation on top of this class, as this is going to be a MVC configuration, and this class is going to implement web MVC configure. So what I'm going to do now is to add a method called as add CORS mapping. So it's going to be public void add CORS mappings. It's not mapping but mappings, and this is going to take an input parameter of type CORS registry, and I'm going to name it as CORS registry, the variable, and I'm also going to add the override annotation on top of this method. So inside this method we are going to add the CORS configuration. That means we will define what our request can our backend accept. So first of all, we want our backend to accept requests from all the mappings. So for that I'm going to type in CORS registry dot add mappings, and we are going to allow all the requests coming to our backend. So it's going to be slash and **, which will allow all the requests which are coming to the backend. And the next one is we need to define what origins are allowed to access our backend. So I'm going to add allowed origins, and here also I'm going to add allow all origins. This is not usually recommended, but we will restrict that in shortly, like in the further sections. For now we are going to allow all the origins to our backend. And the allowed methods, we need to allow a list of methods. So for that I'm going to allow the HTTP get methods, followed by HTTP post, and followed by HTTP put, HTTP delete, patch, and options call. So all the possible HTTP methods we are allowing to our backend. Again, if you need it based on your requirement, we can also restrict post calls, or we can also restrict delete calls, patch calls, whatever you need. You are free to configure as you like, but we are going to allow all the methods to our backend. And the next one is going to be allowed headers. So we are also going to allow all the headers to our backend as part of the backend request. And the max age parameter we are going to provide as 3600. Okay, so this is the global configuration which is applicable to all the REST controllers we are exposing. So as we have done the changes, we need to restart our server. So I'm going to open the debug tab and click on restart button. So our server will be restarted now, and now we can try the upload functionality from our Angular application. So you can see that the server is restarted. Now let's go back to the browser, and I'm going to clear out this console message, and also the network tab I'm also going to clear it. And now I'm going to try to upload the video again. So I'm going to drag in and drop the video, and I'm going to click on the button upload. So now you can see that the network call is in pending, and you can see that we got a success response and the 201 status. That means the created status back from the REST API. Now let's see whether the video is uploaded to Amazon S3 or not. So I have already opened the S3 management console in the Amazon portal, and I'm going to select the YouTube demo ptechie bucket. And in here you can see that we have just you can see the video we have just uploaded. So that means the backend functionality is also working, and also from the front end side we are able to upload the video and upload it to S3. So that's it guys for this video. In the next video we are going to start implementing the next feature where we are going to save the metadata of the video, like the title, name, description, and we will also see how to display the video inside our application using. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, happy coding techies.